Make your voice heard. Join the Council for the Model Aquatic Health Code. Lend your expertise to the MAC, science-based guidance from the CDC and the only all-inclusive national pool code that addresses current aquatic issues. Learn more at cmac.org. That's cmahc.org.
Hey everyone, it's Kelli and Dan with Tuesdays with Kelli and Dan.
And Dan is at home, nice and warm, out of the weather, but Kelli is mobile today. She's out searching for internet signal and Christmas lights all at the same time. So yeah. you had a little bit of an outage at home, huh?
I got home and my phone wasn't sending things to my sister. And so I was like, what's going on? And my gateway, it says, is offline. And I tried unplugging it and everything, and that didn't solve it. The babysitter was like, yeah, it's going in and out all day. And I'm like, oh, no. My house is a total, we are dependent on Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
We cannot function without Wi-Fi. And the worst part is my phone service, even though I have Verizon, at my house is the crappiest service ever. So
That's
it's
funny.
Not like I could turn my phone to a hotspot and be able to do this. No, I have to drive around in my Jeep looking for Christmas lights so they'll be quiet as we record.
Well, that's awesome. This is a perfect lead in to our podcast today. Although you're looking at Christmas lights, and this podcast is going to be after Christmas, and we're counting down to the new year, right?
Yes.
So, but nonetheless, it's still the holiday season. So it's awesome that we get to be part of your holiday light searching event with the boys. And hopefully you find a lot of cool ones. If you do, you got to pull your phone and turn it around and show us. So.
Okay, yeah, we have some pretty good ones, but Texas, the ones I see online or my sister sends me videos of, or Heather, they go all out.
Yeah.
There is no power conservation there.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got a guy, I think maybe, I can't remember if I shared a video at Halloween or whatever with our podcast group, but so there's a guy in the neighborhood that every Halloween and every Christmas, he has some kind of incredible projecting system that he projects stuff on his house, and his whole house it just comes alive. Every window is a different thing, and the garage door that's closed looks like it opens, and there are elves in there in Santa's workshop. And my God, if I had the time, I would look into however this guy does this, and I would love to sit out there and create scenes on the front of my house. But I can't, because we haven't been home Christmas for probably 7-8 years. We end up, we pack up the kids and we head down by Rudy and Andrea down to Florida to get out of the cold, crappy Chicago climate and get to hopefully some warm and sunshine. And
what were they, the McAllisters or something from Home Alone would do?
Yeah,
where they live in Chicago, to the nice warm palm tree city.
Yep. We pack up. Actually, we're going to be leaving just in a couple of days, which, although this will air just before New Year's, it is, almost the middle of the month now, right now. So yep. We'll leave in a couple of days to head down, spend a couple of weeks there. Our son lives in Alabama now since he graduated college in May, and he's going to drive down from there to meet us. And my wife and I and our daughter will head down a little before he gets there. So anyway, we're going to be spending the holidays in hopefully not snow-filled Florida.
Hopefully there's no hurricanes while you're there.
Oh, please. This episode is about the countdown to New Year's Eve, and Kelli and I thought that maybe we would share the handful of what we feel are the biggest events of this year and kind of count them down from 5 to 1 in terms of what we think that the industry encountered this year that was important. So I guess I'll kick it off, Kelli, with something that's always on the top of my mind, and as number 5, I'm going to say that we had finally cracked through the aspect of being able to be in person on a more consistent basis. in 2022. We started towards the very end of last year with the expo in Dallas being in person and a couple other regional events. January, we were in Atlantic City with the pool and spa show out there with all of their fantastic in-person training. And throughout the year, we had manufacturers back being live. And certainly this past, month or so, we were able to all get together out in Vegas at the expo out there, and that was a great time. So to me, the in-person, the networking, the training, hands-on, all that kind of stuff was kind of a big breakthrough after a couple of years of COVID not letting us do much, if any, of that.
Yeah, I agree. It was nice to see if there was better attendance at these events. And even it seemed like a lot of the manufacturers reps and the sales reps were trying to get more out there. And so it was great to be able to have that interaction again that we were missing. And kind of like, I feel like the pool pros, when they saw that something was that they can go to and talk to somebody in person, it was way better than before.
Yeah, certainly the industry made a leaps and bounds of advancements in doing virtual things throughout COVID. Our industry has never been virtual. We're not a virtual people. We do what we do, I think, a large part because we are all the types that need the hands-on, the in-person, that type of stuff. We're not, as a rule, book people and people who really excel highly in sort of a third person point of view. So the industry did do great things with
we're definitely not those type of people.
No, the industry really took hold of situation early on in 2020 and creating ways that workers can be remote, and training and education and networking can happen in remote virtual kind of settings. But nothing replaces being able to get together and shake hands and hug one another and grab the tools and crack the wrenches and get the hands-on first-person training that 2022 really brought back in a big way. So I, to that point, would love to thank all of the efforts, especially early on, by everyone who kind of plugged through. I remember going to Atlantic City in January, and it was just weeks, if I remember right, before that show where they said, "Oh, you've got to have a vaccine card in order to get in, or you have to prove through a test that you don't have COVID within 2 or 3 days of walking into the show." So it was such a short time frame that even if someone wanted to get vaccinated, they couldn't become fully vaccinated because it was too close. There's no way to do that. But however they did it, they got the ability to do testing right there on site. So those who weren't able to be vaccinated were able to get tested. And that show really was well attended and a kind of a big event kicking off 2022. And I think a little bit setting the tone to where, hey, let's get past this. Let's get in person. Let's get back to the core of what makes this industry so great. So
yeah, I agree. Because when I went to the Western show this year, it was weird seeing you have to like show your vax card or going and getting tested before you got in there.
Yeah.
And you either paid for it or you could show them your insurance card and you didn't have to pay for the test.
Oh, really?
So,
okay. Yeah, Atlantic City, there was no concern about fees. If I don't know who or how, if it was something to do with Atlantic City themselves, or if it was just the show that absorbed the costs, or what. But I got out there. I had events early on Monday. I flew out on Sunday. They opened up testing early Sunday morning, well in advance of the show. My travel schedule was such that I really couldn't get a test here at home because the show technically didn't start till Tuesday. And,
right.
That would have meant if I tested Friday, I was outside of their required 3-day maximum window,
Yeah.
so they pulled it off. They did a great job. All of our industry is the people are what make the difference, and the people out there at NESPA really managed to put it all together. And like I said, give us a great jump start to the 2022 season by doing what they had to get us in person. And, it certainly carried on through the rest of the year. So for me, number 5 and on our way down to number 1, I think the more in-person training across the board throughout all the events nationwide was a huge plus for our industry in 22.
Oh, I agreed with you, because how else are we going to, find out the new stuff, get our questions answered, because I'll tell you, when I do get to see people, sometimes I don't remember everything, but as the conversation goes and they're explaining things, then my questions start coming out more that I forgot. But on Zoom, I feel like I didn't remember all my questions. And usually when you're on Zoom, it's like really quick, you're done and move on to the next one type of thing.
Yeah, and I me personally, the online stuff was real hard to keep my mind engaged. They're sitting wherever I might be in my office or at home. There are other distractions going on as compared to when you're inside a training environment at a show or at a manufacturer's facility or at a distributor where your focus is on what's in front of you. The distractions aren't as great. Don't have the dog running around barking, the kids looking at Christmas lights, the whatever the case may be. But at any rate, so 22. Cheers to you for bringing the industry a lot more in-person events, and hopefully, knock on wood, 23 continues that process even more. Something else that was a big issue this year, and I know you do a lot of work with all manufacturers. I know Hayward is a key one that you're warranty station for, and you do a lot of startups and installs on their stuff, but access to equipment from, whether it's pumps or digital control systems, kind of you name it, there was issues that started well before 22, but certainly plagued 22 in terms of lead times and shortages on equipment, right?
Oh, yeah. I don't want to say there was any one manufacturer that was worse than the others, of course, because they all had their hiccups. Anything with a board was hard to come by.
Yeah.
Even repair parts for anything with a board. Yeah, it's like, okay, I will see you as soon as it comes in. Oh, how long will that be? Oh, I can't really give you a number.
Right.
Sometimes I'm lucky and it's a week. Sometimes, like when it came to robotic cleaners, it took 3 months.
Sure. It caused us to get really creative in sourcing parts where we commonly would buy direct from manufacturers and offset that a little bit with distributors here and there. And we certainly have our sort of primary distributor. Well, the aspect of 22, and I guess it goes in addition to lead times. So, throughout COVID, the lead times just kept getting longer and longer and longer. And where we, as I said, we buy most of our stuff direct from manufacturers, we were told in March of 22 that we had better get all of our orders in for 23 because all of them, and you're right, it was not that anyone was any better or worse than the other. The big 3 and beyond were running 12 plus months lead time. So we were told in March, order what you need for 23 because you won't see that until March or maybe April of 23. So we, that's a big thing that is, I think, going to plague the industry a little bit on different levels, even as we get into 23. where, we right now have, and not just in equipment, but in chemicals and in everything else, we basically have everything that we need for the 2023 year in our warehouse right now,
Yeah.
which for us is not normal and not a place that you want to be,
Well, it's a huge investment that you're putting out there. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. And, potentially if manufacturers do get caught up and distributors' shelves are not bare like they had been in 21 and 20, and a good part of 22, then, we may see some price fluctuations and stuff. And everything I've got sitting in the warehouse, we bought at the peak. So if there becomes a need to be competitive on price and everything else, then we're turning that inventory that has a high value into revenue not valued as highly. So, businesses exist because of cash flow, and that's kind of what that taps into. So 23 is going to show a little bit of the effects of this ordering in bulk way in advance of when you ever have in the past in 22.
Well, also, when you're ordering in bulk, we've had such high equipment purchasing with customers the last few years that, things are slowing down. Builders are seeing less leads, and it's kind of hard to judge what you'll need. And so there is a possibility, if you don't have, well, no one has experience with this, but you could possibly order too much.
Yeah, absolutely. And where we, certainly tried to do our best in gauging those orders that we put in, 9 months ago or whatever it is, in terms of the need. You're right. We were gauging a little bit heavier because of the demand through 21 and 22, and not wanting to end up getting into 23 and being short. Some of that inventory is likely going to roll even into 24, depending on the volume that everyone is able to move and things like that. So it's going to be a juggling game. I'm sure the manufacturers and distributors are going to do a great job of incentivizing additional purchases, even though some of us may not need stuff. There may be, some things that come across that make us have to consider stocking up earlier than we would have pre-COVID as we roll out of 23 and head into 24. But at any rate, the
smaller companies like myself, where I can't afford to dish out, I know roughly what I would need for next year, but I definitely don't have that type of revenue since I am just what I consider a single puller.
Yeah.
When I can, I try to have at least like one pump on hand of each model that I put in, because I know no matter what, that's not going to kill me, but I can't take like 60 grand and buy what I'll need for the year.
Right. Well,
so
I do think that you're potentially going to see 23 as a result of 22, providing you some opportunity that, someone like us who is all stocked up isn't going to have. So, again, we bought at what I feel may be kind of the peak, and distributors manufacturers are going to have some product, in my opinion, as we go through 23 available, and you may be able to negotiate some deals that are a little more palatable than what we were paying in March of 22.
Oh yeah, that's one nice thing about being friendly with your distribution, being on that name-to-name basis, treating them with respect and being nice to them, is you do get those opportunities where you could be like, hey, is there any chance you can give me a little better price?
Yep.
And don't think that it's only going to be those smaller distributions that are going to do it. I've had it where my SCP manager, what they'll do is they'll look and see what they paid for it and then they'll tell you what they can, how low they can go.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're a butthead and you don't ever go into distribution ever, I guess, good luck. But at least have a good relationship with them on the phone. And that this isn't just the guy you call and is at the phone center. It's like occasionally call your branch manager and build a relationship.
Yeah, you and I have talked at length about relationships and also networking. Ways that you're dealing with, whether it's a distributor or a manufacturer or even sales reps, in terms of them being more willing to work with you because you're someone that they know, and having a good relationship. The other part of it, it's a good thing that you brought up. Many people don't really understand that although a company like Pool Corp might have their quote unquote book price, wholesale book price, there are deals negotiated for everybody in terms of better deals than what that book price is, and it's just a matter of sometimes just asking the question. And it's not like walking into your local grocery store and buying a gallon of milk. The price on the shelf is what you pay, and you're not going to go to the cashier and negotiate. You can do negotiations with your vendors and try to get better pricing, and certainly if they do have a lot of product on the shelves that they're looking to move, and you have a good relationship with them, well, then that book price, you can certainly talk about, can we do something a little bit better?
Can you hear him now?
I heard.
That's Mr. Michael.
Saw the Christmas lights a while ago, but now I'm not seeing them. So you must be looking for another neighborhood, huh?
Yeah, we're seeing some, but they're not as good as that one was.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good one.
Yeah. So,
believe me, I'm taking him to the really good one here soon. It's just far
all right.
away.
Well, you're gonna have to share that with me when you get there.
Oh yeah.
So in addition to the equipment, what else did we have? So let's see, equipment was in counting down, we had in-person stuff was number 5, equipment lead times and shortages, number 4. What else do we have on our list?
Well, chemical shortages and price hikes was a huge thing. Anything chemical.
Yeah.
I want to say that at least with equipment, it was the twice a year you're going to get the increase and we'd have the shock. But then I think with chemicals, those are kind of just, you never knew when they were going up.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem that even as we get out of 22 and move into 23, that on the chemical front, especially the chlorine aspect of things, that there's going to be a ton of relief in sight. I know, we've talked a lot in recent months about some of the stuff going on with chlorine, and I think we were maybe one of the first to announced that the bio lab plant opened up almost a couple of months ago now, to help the trichlor aspect of things, which was the first impact that we all felt a couple of years ago. That's continued through 22. But then just recently we also talked about EPA and asbestos potentially being pulled out of every industry, and the big part of that being the production of chloralkali that's used for not just chlorine, but things like PVC pipe and other plastics. And I mean, it's just used in so many various products and various industries, and that a third of the plants in the country that produce chlor-alkali use asbestos in the manufacturing process. So if the EPA bans the use of asbestos, that may show ugliness in the next year or two in terms of continued stress on the chlorine end of the industry's pricing and also availability.
I think in preparation for next year, just treat it like you prepared for this year, where you get on those regular order lists. Make sure you put your order in for your chlorine and acid so you get it regularly. That way, if we do get into that crisis again, you're already on the list.
Yeah,
instead of having to struggle to get back on the list.
Yeah, it's definitely not something that you want to be reactionary to, because that's going to put you into potentially no product available for you and for your customers. So staying on the cycle of hey, I'm going to get some every whatever frequency that is. In some cases, it could be weekly. For us, we bring in the heavy heat of the summer, if you will, a semi load of liquid chlorine weekly, sometimes in the very heaviest parts of the summer, 2 semi loads of liquid chlorine a week.
Oh, wow.
And if we don't have those orders queued up well in advance, then we could end up in a real problem by not being able to have it. So whether it's that you're buying a semi load, or you're buying a skid, or you're buying half a dozen cases, or whatever the product and volume is, you want to always be looking ahead, watching your inventories, making sure you've got orders out there. And in any of these things, you can always cancel it.
Yeah. I also think in order to prepare yourself for those same things, is if you haven't already, which most have started getting into it, is knowing those specialty chemicals that can help you maintain that pool on a very minimal chlorine level, or reduce, having to use acid too much. I just don't see our issues with getting constant chlorine being solved just yet. And so, but then also think about, like we were saying with the equipment, about how you can sometimes be like, hey, can I get a better price? Chemicals, especially the specialty chemicals. If you know you're going to buy this brand phosphate remover every single week, and you know how much, maybe then talk to your manager and be like, hey, I know I'm going to buy this constantly. Is there any chance that I can get a deal on each bottle, or every 4 bottles, or whatever it is? Because they'll do that. It may only be maybe 10 cents to 50 cents, but that adds up if you think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the specialty chemicals, that's a fantastic point. We're right now getting geared up to get our contracts and everything out for the 23 season. And in terms of our routine maintenance, our, weekly kind of maintenance, we're taking a little bit different stance, and we're going to be a little bit stern on it, that there are certain things we're going to do every week and products we're going to add, and we're going to require you to buy those products from us. In our market, products our maintenance isn't chemically inclusive in the Midwest. We're always, a cost of service plus chemicals. And we're requiring that people are buying our chemicals because we know the quality of them. We're requiring that they buy these specialty chemicals. So on a weekly basis, we're going to be adding to every pool algicides, and we're going to be adding peroxymonosulfate, non-chlorine shock, as preventative layers that will help us to reduce the chlorine needs of the pool and help to offset some of this craziness that's going on and is likely to plague us through much of 23 with the chlorine shortages and pricing on chlorine and so forth. So, if we're putting algicide and peroxymonosulfate in, we're not going to have the need to superchlorinate to break point and use all kinds of, chlorine products to raise that level. and provide a better environment overall. And I will argue that the cost of that is less expensive than the conventional reactionary method that the industry tends to take, where let's wait until we see algae and then we're going to dump a whole quart, a whole gallon, depending on the product, and we're going to shoot the chlorine sky high, and we're going to have additional visits to treat and get rid of, as opposed to being proactive and adding products that help prevent it in the first place so that you never have to get to that point. And on a preventative basis, most of these products are in very small increments. You're adding algicide that could be shot glasses worth of algicide on a weekly basis, instead of waiting until you see algae and then dumping a whole quart or a whole gallon in. So at any rate, that's, relative to the chlorine shortages and price increases, that's kind of
One thing I can recommend to people is buy a measuring cup.
Yeah,
That's
for sure.
your best friend from now on, so that you don't overuse.
Right.
And then you'll save money because, you're doing the actual measurements.
Right.
Believe me, it saved, when I got myself a measuring cup, it saved me a lot of money, because I wasn't just doing like, oh, I'll put a quarter gallon in, or a half a gallon, or a whole gallon. Like, sometimes you don't need all that.
Right. We sell a particular algicide in both quarts and gallons, and the quart bottles, on the center vertical side of it, it's clear with these graduated marks. So each mark is, I think, 2 ounces, if I remember right. So as you're pouring it in, you can gauge how much you're adding, but the gallon doesn't have that.
Yeah.
And the gallon, you can get a gallon of the product in the gallon jug for the cost of sometimes 3 quarts in the quarts, right? So it's considerably less money, but inevitably everyone dumps way more in because they don't have a measuring cup, and they just, kind of glug, glug, glug. That looks about right. Okay. And that gallon only lasts, half as long as what 4 quarts would, because they're not measuring it. So that's a great point. We actually like to see customers have more than one measuring cup, because the last thing I want them to do is to use that for algicide and then use it also for chlorine or for acid or for something like that. So I like to see them have a couple so that we never have to worry about residue mixing. Yeah.
Okay, so we have the chemicals, we have the equipment. What is next?
Kelly and Dan will be right back after these messages.
Have you heard there is a group of pool service professionals nationwide that are here to help grow and protect your business? The Independent Pool and Spa Service Association, known as IPSA, is here to help you. By joining the largest trade organization created by and for pool and spa service techs, you gain access to industry networking opportunities, exclusive educational offerings, IPSA's Tech for Tech route coverage, and more. So be independent, supported, and part of a professional community. Go to ipssa.com to learn how to be a member of IPSA today.
Again, not just 22, but it certainly seems to have gotten more difficult in 22, is the ongoing labor shortage. We've had a heck of a time. It's never easy to get people, and certainly to get quality people. And the whole aspect of COVID and I think the mentality of people being forced to stay at home has broken many to where they just don't remember what it was to get up and go to work and to put in, an honest day's labor and all that kind of stuff.
They had to put pants on.
Yeah, put pants on, right? You can't put a new seal in a pump from behind your computer with only a shirt on, right?
That, and you can't be going to the factory and wearing your sweatpants that are baggy and you can get caught in the conveyor belt.
Yeah, right. Ooh, ouch. So, labor shortages, which it's required our industry to take a look at different things in 22 to try to become creative and to step out of the norm. Our industry tends to be one that everything hits all of a sudden, and despite whatever market you may be in, there's seasonality. So it's not like many industries where you truly have year-round, 40-hour week kind of employment. We tend to get into the months of March, April, May, and many of us are running, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90-hour weeks and more. And we push that until we get through September, October, and everything winds down. And, for our
talked about like the chemicals and the equipment. That was one of the number one reasons, the manufacturers of all of that said that they were having issues.
Yep, right. The manufacturers couldn't find labor, just like we can't find labor. It's widespread. It's not specific to just the service sector or the construction sector or the manufacturing sector. It's not to the pool industry exclusively either. It's another epidemic, if you will, of sorts that's not COVID, but I think COVID and the aspect of so many being forced not to be able to work, it's changed the mindsets in ways that we never expected. So, employers, like I said, you've got to be creative. You've got to certainly be willing to pay people their worth. The days of paying people $10 an hour, $12 an hour, $15 an hour kind of nonsense, really, for the revenue that they're generating.
Where I live, $15 an hour isn't going to be minimum wage anymore.
Yeah, and Illinois is right there. We echo what California and New York do all the time. So we're maybe just slightly behind you, but yeah, we're right there. The aspect of minimum wage in certain areas driving things, but even with that, you minimum wage could be $15 an hour. You are never going to hire someone at $15 an hour, and it's just not going to happen. So we've looked at things in terms of like the hours tend to be a bigger issue truly for us, the demand in hours than it is even the pay. You could offer someone walking in the door with zero experience, $20 an hour, $22 an hour, $24 an hour, and they look at you when you tell them you're working 6 days a week, and they're like, "Forget you. I'm not working 6 days a week. I don't care what you're paying me." So
they're like, I can in and out and make that much money and work part time.
Yeah, exactly. So we've had to look at that as a company and try to figure out ways that we can effectively use people for tens instead, right? How can we do Monday through Thursday, 10-hour days, 40 hours a week? And for us, the difficulty is in the resources, right? So we've always forever had trucks that are dedicated to technicians.
Uh-huh.
And if that resource is only going to be used 4 days a week, well, that's a huge part of your overhead that otherwise is sitting. So figuring out ways that we can split the resources for people, and something that I haven't in a number of years, but I'm going to look very hard right after the first of the year, is reaching back out to people in other employment. And the three areas actually, but two that tend to come to mind right off the bat are fire people, and teachers who routinely have periods of time off. Firemen will work 24 on, 36 off, that kind of stuff. And although you may not get them consistent for 5 or 6 days a week in a row, firemen tend to be very capable, very knowledgeable, very physically fit people who are able to work out in the elements. They like working out in the elements.
Firefighters can.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's a definite. They can work in the elements and be fine.
Yeah.
Teacher may be a little iffy.
Right, but teachers get their summers off. So depending, and not that every teacher is going to be someone that's going to be maybe a service tech or a construction person out in the field, but those of us that have retail stores or office, back office staff, through the years, it's been a while, but we've had teachers that are incredible salesperson for 3 months in the summer, or awesome, you bring math teachers in that help do accounting and invoicing and things like that, or I don't know, there's just a lot of different areas if you kind of think a little bit outside of the box.
That's a great idea of doing that, because teachers, I think teachers are one of the number one, summer job type of people, because they are very limited in how much they make just because of the profession itself. That
Right.
Yeah, they would love to have that extra income during the summer, because not always all the schools have summer school. So when me coming from working in school districts, my job was never a summer job. Like, they didn't need me. I worked in the health office as like the school nurse, but I wasn't the school nurse, and so we didn't work during the summer.
Yep.
And there was no fill-in jobs for us to do either. The only time I was able to work during the summer as a fill-in was when I worked for Head Start.
Okay.
So, yeah, I actually had a second job that I did during most of my work during the summer to make that extra income for the poor pay that I got as an educational department worker.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and it's not that for us, our season really starts to ramp up here in the Chicago market end of March, 1st of April. And we don't slow down until we start rolling through October into November. So a school teacher usually is out of school by us mid-May, and they have to start getting back into the classroom to get set up and all the rest of it, usually by middle of August. So it's a relatively short window, but it's a few months in the very dead of the summer, not dead in terms of slow, but the dead middle of the summer, that provides relief to the rest of your staff, allows you to get some more stuff done during that time frame if you can utilize them in a good way. And although it might not be the quote unquote an ideal employee that you're looking for, someone that's wanting to work from mid-March to mid-November and work 70, 80-hour weeks and all the rest of it, if you can figure out ways to utilize them, make it work when otherwise your choices might be nothing, I think there's great opportunity for everyone in those kind of things. Like I said, thinking out of the box, and again, making sure that you're paying people, that you're providing some benefits where benefits are able to be provided, that we're taking the money that we're making and giving it back to the employees at a high rate, and impressing upon the employees the importance of them doing a good job and pushing the name of your company to the top of what's in the area. Like everything feeds on one another, and the more well known a company is for doing good work and having great customer service and everything else, then you can charge more money for what you're doing, which allows you to pay more money to your employees and all that kind of stuff. So, and to that point, to roll from what was our number 2 in our countdown to number 1. I think we both kind of agreed that the number 1 thing in 2022 is relative to price and pricing, right? what we've paid for stuff and how we've priced stuff, and to the point of that comment I just made on the labor shortage and bringing people in and making them see the importance of the brand of your business and of doing exceptionally high quality work and having high levels of customer service so that you can build on that brand and prove yourself to be the most valuable. When you're the most valuable, you can charge more than the people down the street do. And for us, that's been something that has been decades worth of driving factor behind how we price things, and as a result how we're able to pay our employees and keep employees. And we've got a little over 50 employees, and our average tenure right now is somewhere between 17 and 18 years. So we keep people around because they understand that they're the most integral part of the company. They're paid well as a result of that, and they're showing themselves to be the face of the company that we want it to be, building day after day to make us even better and better. So, as we rolled into 22, I know I had conversations with a lot of people that were talking about, geez, and I think the biggest increases we had in cost occurred, especially on the equipment sector anyway, from September of 21 through March to maybe April of 22.
Yeah, I agree.
We saw increases that were anywhere from 23 to 28% in that short, roughly 6-month window. Just unprecedented increases in equipment costs. And as that's going on, and we're gearing up for 22 and talking to people across the country, there's a lot of conversation about, boy, how are you pricing things? Are you sticking with your margin percents that you've done for years, or are you going to resign yourself to margin dollars? And there's a significant difference between the two.
Paying on things.
Yeah, the whole aspect of the cost of money and everything else, and we decided, maybe a year ago or a little bit more, that we were going to hold firm to our margin percents in 22 as opposed to margin dollars. Even though the cost of stuff was going through the roof, we were going to stick to those margin percents, and it proved itself invaluable as we got through 22, and we're almost near the end now, to our bottom line. We didn't move as much equipment in 22 as we did in 21. It wasn't far off, but it definitely wasn't what we moved in 21. But yet we had more money at the end of the year because we kept those margin percents instead of falling down and just charging the new price plus whatever our profit was last year on that. And I think we may see some people who decided to do other and go with margin dollars in 22 that may not be faring quite as well in terms of the actual revenue or profit on what they did versus sticking with the margin percents. And as we leave 22 and head into 23, and on equipment, we all saw increases back September, October, prepping for the 23 season, but those increases were, although still more than what they might have been in 2017, 18, 19, they were not as they had been in the period I talked to before about fall of 21 into spring of 22. But they're still significant nonetheless, and I hear Rudy talks all the time, and I know we talk all the time about our industry needs to be paid what you're worth. And when you get into doing things for low dollars, you're trading your skills and your reputation and your dedication and your knowledge for low pay, and it's just not a formula that really works. So if 22 has shown me anything relative to pricing and how to deal with price increases, it's that you put your value of yourself and your employees at the top, and then take a look at where you're at. If you truly are the best at what you do in your area, then you should be paid that way. And you should demand a high price for everything that you do. And if you take that sort of position and that sort of stance, it does two things. One, I think it forces you to live up to that and to do, make sure that you're well educated, you're well prepared, that your customer service is at an exceptional level, because you know that you're charging for what you're getting, and with that you're able to afford what it takes to do that. You can't go to Genesis classes if you don't have the money to pay for it, right?
No, not at all.
Those classes are not inexpensive, and they're worth every penny, if not more, as well as so many other, whether it's Genesis or WaterShape or PHTA or CPO or whatever kind of a course you're going to take. The cost of the course the courses are definitely worth more than what you're paying, despite what the price may be. But if you put yourself
able to take. I was going to say, you're not going to get those higher end classes if you're that guy. If you are that full service that undercuts everybody.
Yeah, all you're doing is living day to day. Literally just covering the cost of existence, instead of being able to put money away to be able to invest in your education and your equipment and your employees and all the rest of it. So again, 2022, to me, the top thing that it showed me was that you need to hold firm to your pricing. You need to be paid for what you're doing. Understand your value and your worth, and don't compromise on it. So to me, that's in our countdown, the number one thing from 22 that I'm going to carry through into 23 is that thought.
Yeah, I agree, because at the end of every year, I reflect on the year that I was in and how I can improve on things. Forms, systems, pricing, because if you don't have those things in place and that are done accurately, you won't survive in the long run.
Absolutely.
So that's my thought. We are now in the Disney area.
All right.
So we had Disney
not only
houses.
lights. Yeah, I see Disney themed houses and all kinds of people walking up down the sidewalks looking at the lights. This is, wow, that's pretty incredible.
We don't, in this neighborhood, you don't have headlights on.
Safety first. Drive in the dark.
So
that's pretty amazing. That's well, I hope the boys are enjoying that in the back seat as you're showing them the lights in your.
Max has down and everything.
Yeah, cool. So, well, that was
our down.
That's our top 5 for 2022, and I guess as a highlight for me personally in 22, Kelli, it's been able to be part of this podcast with you for the last handful of months, and to be part of such a great group at the Talking Pools and putting this out to everybody, and all the efforts that everyone else in our group makes to try to help educate and better those that are listening. So
it's nice to have somebody to talk to about pools. That's not, my typical people. It's nice to talk to other people regularly around the country to see if I'm crazy.
don't kid yourself. You are crazy. You're kind of nuts, but we love you anyway. So, don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, some of these people that I interact with, I'm just like, are there really this many idiots in this world, or do I just get to see them? But it's okay. Some people probably think I'm psycho, or what was the most recent person told me I'm anal? Thanks, people. Thanks.
You know what? There's nothing wrong with being anal. That's a trait that I've had my whole life, and I think it keeps you on point.
Yes. So
that was a compliment.
I take it as a compliment. Hey, at least I know I do everything right, right?
Absolutely.
So anyways, that was fun to do. We'll have to do that again this next year.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to wish all of our listeners a happy new year. Hope 2023 brings you all kinds of great things. Kelli, certainly I want to wish you a happy new year for you and your boys and the rest of your family. And I'm looking forward to next year.
I liked it. The boys were like, let's put it
up. Good. I'm glad. Yukon Cornelius is never a bad thing, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks to our sponsors, IPSA and CMAC, for supporting us, and we're certainly thrilled with all that you do for our industry, and glad to be part of however small a part of your input to the industry that we can be. So thank you for that.
And thank you everyone for listening. Hope you have a great New Year's. Be safe. If you have anything you would like us to talk about, please message us, email us, whatever way you want to do bat signals. So we will talk to you again soon.
Happy New Year, everyone.